What's up, y'all? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Married to Medicine. This is season 11, episode 15, the finale episode. And I'm going to be honest, they could have kept this. Okay? I said, this all we getting. This all we got. And again, I will say, Greg is the problem. Dr. Gregory, Dr. G, Gregory Cicero Lumpsford is the problem. Okay? But let's get into the video. So y'all know sometimes before we get into the review, we get a little spicy, just a little bit. And I just got a few things to talk to y'all about. So first up, I did the drama video, and it was posted last Saturday, where I did speak about Married to Medicine. So there is a Married to Medicine segment. Y'all know I try my best to timestamp all my videos. So definitely look in the description box below, because there will be a link for you to go check out that video. I did talk about Married to Medicine. I talked about the back and forth between the Real Housewives of Atlanta cast and Married to Medicine cast. I also talked about the back and forth between Quad and Simone after the reunion trailer dropped. So in this segment of Spicy Corner, we're just going to do an update because Quad responded to Simone after Simone responded to Quad, and then Heavenly actually took it upon herself to apologize on the behalf of the Married to Medicine cast to the Real Housewives of Atlanta cast. So let me play Heavenly's apology first.
The privilege, I don't think, of meeting any of the new girls, but from what I can see, they all beautiful. They all beautiful. And I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna take it back. We all have had Botox. I don't know what the issue with Botox. I've had some up in here, and I don't give a damn. You know, I don't care. I've had some in here. I might need some more right here. Shit, I'm gonna get some if I need it. Right here, I've had fillers. I've had fillers right here. And I look damn good. And it's all about preservation. For me. Not for me. I don't know, about anybody else. But I just wanted to say, hands down, we apologize. I'm going to apologize to you ladies for Married to Medicine. We should not be speaking on y'all. We should not. Portia, we love you. You're not a mean. We all have done some mean shit now. I'm going to just say that. We all have. But we love everybody. Married to Medicine, I'm going to speak for Jackie. I'm going to speak for Simone. Toy, I can't speak for Toy. Toy probably cursed me out. But we love y'all, we uplift y'all, and we should not be speaking on y'all. So I'm sorry, and I'm going to try to hold to that. I want to apologize for Simone. I want to apologize because she said some things on Watch What Happens Live. I think that Toya said some things about the girls on Real Housewives of Atlanta, and I think they're retaliating or whatever. But I just want to apologize because we shouldn't be speaking on them. Portia's right. We should be uplifting each other, and I want to thank them. Honestly, first and foremost, I want to say I'm proud of y'all. You know what I mean? I'm proud of you ladies. You know what I'm saying? This ain't what y'all usually get from Dr. Heavenly, but I mean it when I say it. I'm proud of you ladies. Y'all did the darn thing. Y'all had a great promo premiere episode. It was amazing. I want to congratulate Shamea. Shamea is so humble and beautiful, y'all. These ladies, all of them are beautiful. All of them are beautiful, humble. $9 million house. And I'm not going to say, it's the thing that I love about her $9 million house and her husband. And I think I met Gerald before, but I'm saying he's a real stand-up guy, a really nice guy. But I want to say that, and it ain't nothing wrong. I'm just saying, he didn't get it balling. He didn't get it doing something scammy. He didn't do it on TV. He did it like a real businessman. Like, I love that. Like, he owns HVAC. He found a niche and it made millions from it. I don't know any of us that have $1 million house. So that has to be applauded. Like, Shamea, you did that. I think that is the dream of the ladies, to have a man that's a stand-up man, that stand behind the BS, that takes care of his wife, loves his children.
So that was Heavenly's apology. Do I think it was needed? Not really, but if she felt inclined to apologize, then who am I to tell her she shouldn't apologize? Honestly, I feel like this whole entire situation got blown out of proportion, mainly because a lot of people don't like the Married to Medicine cast and are ready for Married to Medicine to be off. If your name's not Quad Webb or Letitia Lumpsford, you're kind of in the clear, because Simone, Jackie, Toya, and Heavenly and Contessa, and even Mimi have been getting ate up by a bunch of people because they don't like the way that the women are treating those two girls. But for me, I'm just like, I'm not going to be hypocritical and act like I'm angry about Simone calling Portia a mean girl when I've been calling Portia that for the past 4 years. And I'm also not going to be mad at Toya making mention about the women's facial features when we saw the cast lineup for the new cast, we were all like, they all look like they got the same face. Why do the new girls look like they all went to the same doctor? So if I made those comments, and I've seen worse comments about these women, and people weren't in an uproar about that, I'm not about to fake like I'm angry. I'm just not. People keep making the same two points about, well, there's only two black shows on Bravo. They shouldn't be fighting. That's sad. We deserve more. On top of that, people saying, well, they're not on the same show. They shouldn't be speaking negatively about other people. That doesn't stand for me either, when there's like 5 or 6 different podcasts ran by real housewives who speak negatively about other housewives that are not on their show, and there's never this massive uproar. You got, what's it called, Tamra and Teddy's podcast. You have Giselle and Robin's podcast. Anytime the girls go on Jeff Lewis and he start asking them how they feel about other housewives on other shows or other Bravo shows, the girls are get candid and real with him, and no one really makes a big eye about it. So I'm not about to fake like I'm angry when I'm not. I'm just not. But it is what it is at this point. So moving on, since I brought up people being mad at Simone and them, let's talk about Quad and Simone. So like I said, there was a back and forth between Simone and Quad after the reunion trailer dropped, and this is kind of how it went. So Quad said this on Instagram. She said, for years, I've been racking my brain trying to see what all the Simone beef is about. The only thing I can come up with is Sister Circle. I shared my Sister Circle platform with those I was friends with at the time, Jackie, Heavenly, and Contessa. It is simple. I don't owe anybody anything. I don't cry mad when they don't involve me in their other ventures. I wish them well. Mind my business, period. So Simone saw this, I guess, took a screenshot and then put it in her Insta story saying, leave me alone unless you want it with me. So then Quad responded back to her saying, it's quite convenient for Simone to scream, leave me alone, when she's been badgering me for years. I get she works for production doing their dirty bidding, but I'm fed up with it. Stop picking fights with me just to have something going on for the show, and it won't be no smoke. So here's the thing. I oftentimes feel like Simone and Quad argue like siblings. They'll say some crazy stuff to each other, and then in the next couple of minutes they be cool. I don't know. I've heard that they might go on hiatus before we get season 12. They might do the same thing that they did with Atlanta, where they do a cast shakeup. And I've heard that it seems like Simone, Jackie, and Letitia might be the ones being let go, and they might just bring in 2 or 3 new doctors, or 2 doctors and a doctor's wife to replace them. Who truly knows? I feel like they got to stop rehashing old drama. Now, I always tell y'all Simone is my girl, but there's definitely some anger there that she has towards Quad. I don't think she's jealous of Quad. I don't think she's bitter towards Quad. I don't even think she hates Quad. I think she's angry about their friendship never getting back to where it used to be, because I feel like people have forgotten how cool and close Quad and Simone were, and I think it angers her that Simone probably feels like she's done things to like move their friendship forward, but they keep going back because Quad holds a grudge and Simone holds a grudge. And another part of me is like, there's always this part of Quad that seems like it's dedicated to be a victim. And I'm not saying that there haven't been times where Quad is justified in feeling that way, because the women have definitely spoke down to her. They have belittled her. They have like questioned her finances and things of that nature. But Quad has done things as well, okay? She spoke negatively about people's marriages. She has accused people of committing robberies, doing fraud and things of that. So we've seen Quad do things. So I don't think it's just this one-sided beef, but I also find it annoying at times when it comes to Quad, where it does seem like the ladies get past their issues when they're filming the reunion or the season, and then Quad will buy in to the fans, like getting angry for her on her behalf, and then she'll get angry all over again. Because when she was on that show, Virtual Reality T, they asked her who was a traitor, and she said Simone, because she was like, Simone will say things that will hit you straight in your core, but she was like, we're friends now. Not friends now, but she said we're in a good place. And I was like, okay, if y'all are in a good place, then why now are you calling her out? Is that because you still feel some type of way? Did something happen before this? Or are you doing this because of the fans? Because this isn't the first time she's done this. She did it with Toya, she's done it with Heavenly, and she's now doing it again for the second time with Simone. So I don't know. You know, if they do a cast shakeup, or if they do put them on pause and when they come back after hiatus and we still have the same cast, I do not want them to rehash this again because we tired. We're definitely tired. So let's talk about Sweet Tea. So she had a couple of things to say on the internet, all right? First, she posted this post, I think on Sunday night, saying, "Funny how loyalty is just a word until it's tested. But don't worry, gaslight me once, shame on you. Gaslight me all season. That's just a free masterclass in resiliency. Stay tuned because I'm about to tell the yellow tooth, I mean the truth." And I guess yellow tooth was supposed to be a shot at Toya for calling her an idiot on her interview with virtual reality T. But girl, you get gaslit every day by your husband. You've been gaslit for probably about, I think they've been together for like 7 years, or maybe, yeah, maybe has it? Because didn't she say they dated for like 5 years before they got together, got married? Either way, girl, you're in a relationship where your partner gaslights you every day. So this doesn't land for me. Moving on, she posted a comment, and like she was responding to a comment by somebody in her comment section saying this. "And another thing, Mimi and Noah, her long chin husband, are your friends." So then Sweet Tea responded by saying, "We were never real friends. They were cast, and we were asked to invite them onto the show. There were even plans for me to film in her office, which I refused. I heard it through the grapevine that they wanted to have a storyline with me seeing Mimi and painting me out to be crazy. Funny how some call themselves real friends yet plan an entire season without consulting you of what their plans are." Continuing on, she says, "I choose to go my own route and film what was authentic to me, not anyone else's storyline. I think when I took a different approach, people didn't know how to handle it, so they grasped at anything to create a false narrative against me." Sweet Tea and all this, like they're creating false narratives against me, is getting old, because I feel like, girl, I don't think anybody has misrepresented you. I really think that they see you and your situation for what it really is, and you just don't like that people are speaking upon it. You know, you and your husband chose to come back to this show, and it is what it is. Now, I don't know how much I believe that they were trying to paint her to be crazy. Maybe they just wanted them to come to showcase her new facility, because there is a Bravo TV clip going around of Mimi's new facility that her and Steven were working on, her new office and stuff, maybe that. But I mean, I would be careful by putting out this type of story if you don't have proof, because now people are questioning Mimi as a psychiatrist, and if she wanted to, she probably could send you like a cease and desist. The same way your husband felt disrespected, she could feel disrespected as well. So the last thing we got from Sweet Tea is she also posted this on Sunday night saying this: "Dearest wretched readers, the ever bold heiress Letitia, known to some as Lady Truella, never holds back, nor does she intend to. While others sip tea, she brews it, serving reality tea hotter than the Regency summer. She enters every room with grace, yet somehow always leaves with a target on her back. A team player, yet rarely passes the ball. A woman of wit, yet met with endless gaslighting. One hopes that the actress comes to a halt. At last, delusions reign supreme. If honesty is a scandal, then consider her the season's most scandalous. Let the whisper spread, but do remember Lady Truella writes the final chapter. Yours in truth in tea, Lady Truella. Hashtag Lady Truella, hashtag Trill, hashtag MarriedToMedicine, hashtag Sweet Tea." I'm going to need her to leave ChatGPT alone. I'm going to need her to leave ChatGPT alone. She is going to be worse than Buffy when they no longer ask her to be back on this show. Maybe her, Buffy, and Mariah can link up and they can do their own spinoff of Married to Medicine, or have their own little like reality TV like panel show and go from there. So the last thing we're going to talk about before we get into the review is Miss Toya. So Toya was on Watch What Happens Live Sunday night with Shamea. I think they both look pretty to me. And there were two clips that were going around. One clip is where she was asked about, what's her name? Lady Truella. Letitia's pamphlet that she passed out to everybody, and her thoughts about what she said about Curtis. And Toya gave her response to that kind of had the people like, oh my gosh. And then a viewer actually called in asking about Letitia and her feeling ostracized by the group, and Toya gave a response that also had the people being like, oh. So let me play the first clip about Curtis.
I think that, I love you, Jackie. I think that Curtis has his hands on a couple of different ways on our show before, me being one of those individuals. And so I think he should keep his hand in his pocket.
Well, I know who not to sit by or stand by.
Wow.
I'm hollering.
Okay.
He's sweet, though.
Okay.
So I do want to give shouts out to Jamie That's Me, because that's where I got this recorded clip from. When you hear I'm hollering, that is her voice. So that is what Toya said, and I was like, ooh girl, Jackie gonna be giving you the cold shoulder if you come back, or if she come back for season 12. So the last thing is going to be this viewer question about Sweet Tea. So let me play that clip for you guys.
What is your response to T saying that the group has been treating her unfairly and that she has been iced out based on Greg's decision?
Tisha lies a lot. I mean, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. I really feel like Tisha needs to stop living in her truth and live in the truth. The reality is, Tisha all season literally was pushing us and you. And I hate to say that, but she was. And we were like, wait, girl, we're just your friends. And so it was really difficult to deal with Tisha this season.
And I believe Toya, because Toya is not a liar, and Heavenly has been saying this for like the past couple of weeks, and now we have Toya being like, she said she do that stuff. And we're not gonna act like last season we didn't see her lash out at her sister, and her sister was like, girl, don't even act like that. And she needed Phaedra, one of her friends, and she needed production to throw her into a room to calm her down at that bachelorette party. And now it's starting to feel like they really did chop and screw what happened on that sandbar, and that what Heavenly said was right, that she did push Shimon, that she did push Toya, because the way that Greg was holding her, saying like, you need to calm down, because I felt like he was gaslighting her, but now I don't know, he might have not been. And then the way that she ran up on King, it just feels like something more happened on that sandbar that they did not show us. And I feel like that's why Simone said Sweet Tea is out of control, Letitia is out of control. We also had Heavenly and Contessa on the boat ride back, and Contessa was like, what's your beef with her? And Heavenly was like, she do all that pulling away and all that FU stuff. And even Contessa was like, well, can we give her a pass? She's on hormones. So that lets me know something happened. Something happens and she gets beside herself, and they just don't show it. And she lucky that they don't show it. But I mean, they might, the longer she stays on this show. Like if she comes back after, this season, I feel like eventually production is going to have to stop protecting her and start showcasing the real Letitia when she get angry. Y'all. So like I said in the intro, Gregory is still the problem, and they could have kept this because it was definitely given filler episode, not season finale, but we here, so we might as well talk about it. So the episode opens up and we see two event planners popping up at Toya's house. They sit down with her and they ask her, like, how do you want us to bring your Georgiaton vision to life? She ends up saying that she picked the theme Georgiaton or Bridgerton because she just loves the romance, like what it represents. And she also said that it represents two unlikely people coming together, making a love that stands the test of times, and that's what she sees for her relationship with Eugene, as well as this is their 16th wedding anniversary, and Toya lets it be known that they've never had a wedding anniversary party. So she's just like, she wants to do it big. So the ladies are like, what do you envision for this party? And I think she was like, flowers. And I do think like a bunch of flowers when you think of Bridgerton, but a bunch of flowers, a feasting table with a roasted pig with an apple in its mouth. You know, I want this, I want that. And I think her budget was $25,000. She also says, can we get them Red Lobster biscuits? And one of the ladies was like, I don't think they had that back in the day. Mind you, them biscuits don't taste the same. They don't. I went to Red Lobster like back in December. I will say, whoever was working the bar that night, or well, wasn't I know it was in the afternoon. They did their big one, because I had, like, for the first time I had an espresso martini, a chocolate espresso martini. I'm really not a fan of like coffee and alcohol being mixed together, but whoever was at that bar, oh, that thing was smooth and delicious. Okay, I said, come on, Red Lobster. So Toya is just like, I know how to throw a party, and she does. Because when they showed the Halloween party and they showed the Arabian Nights party, they were fun parties. I do think I would have liked the Halloween party more. It's something about Halloween as I've gotten older that I just enjoy, like seeing young people, like adults and like kids dress up. It's fun. And then seeing some people who have like really creative ideas, I love it. Like, and I love a good Halloween party. So I was like, yeah, I definitely would have been there. Okay, I definitely would have had the most fun at the Halloween party. I love the candy. I love the decorations. Put on a cute little spooky movie. Let's have fun. Okay. So she's just like, this party can't be anything less than that, but especially because it's celebrating their 16th wedding anniversary. So then one of the ladies ends up asking Toya, so who all is invited? And she says everybody in the group is invited, but she was like, she doesn't know if everyone's going to come. They flash back to all the fights that happened on the sandbar. You got Phaedra and Apollo versus and Shireen in the mix. Then you got King and Greg, and then you got Sweetie and Heavenly. And so she's just like, I don't know if everybody's gonna come. The only people who I was worried about not coming, one couple did RSVP, and we find out that it was King and Quad, but Gregory and Sweetie are still up in the air. So the lady was like, so do we need security? And Toya's like, yeah, we gonna probably need security. We gonna probably need security. So moving on to Greg and Sweet Tea, we actually see them go out for like lunch or dinner, and they both look melancholy AF, like just like wounded puppies. And they sitting down at the table, they holding hands, and they're trying to check in with each other. Greg is like, so how are you like, how are you feeling? And Sweet Tea is like, how are you feeling? And Greg ends up saying that pretty much he feels as though he can't believe the group has not really had his back in this matter, and he's kind of taken aback that nobody is really supporting him. They flash back to when he went to Scott's house, and Eugene and Scott spoke to him, and they asked him, so there's a rumor going around that you pressing charges, and he's like, why wouldn't I? And then Sweet Tea ends up explaining how when she sat down with Toya and Mimi, Toya ended up saying that she feels like she has to choose, and she doesn't want to do that. Like, she wants the group to coexist. And so Sweet Tea ends up saying, I'm never going to force somebody to pick my side. Like, I don't need to be in a group where you feel like I'm forcing you to like pick me, And she also says, if it boils down to my marriage or the group, I'm gonna pick my marriage. So they're in the confessional together, and Sweet Tea is talking about how she felt very much like, I guess, gaslit and bamboozled by the group and very disrespected. Gregory ends up saying that, like, he at the table, like, I feel disrespected. I feel like anybody should understand my point of view. They flash back to when they were sitting on the church steps at Contessa's event, and Steven ends up asking him, are you willing to drop the charges? And Greg is like, I'm not willing to drop the charges if I feel disrespected. And so they both kind of sit there, and they both basically said they might just need to take a step back from the group. And I was like, so is this y'all's resignation letter? Because this is definitely a conversation you have like with your friends or your family before you type up your 2 weeks notice. Because it's giving that. It definitely is giving that. But it's interesting because by the end of the episode, it felt like they had a change of heart, especially when they realized they was getting the boot when Quad, King, and Heavenly and Damon were coming, and they had to go. I know for me, I feel like what this boils down to is that Gregory overplayed his hand. I genuinely think had he not pressed charges, there may have been one or two people out of the men that would have stood beside him and would have given him the support that he wanted. But the moment that he went to the law, I think everybody was like, yeah, no, like, you blowing this out of proportion. And I think they all started to think, like, what if we get into something with him and then he feel threatened and want to run to the police? And I think had he not done that, again, I think people would have somewhat given him like grace and saw his side, and him just digging his heels in made him look bad. For him to be such this smart person, and he's this psychiatrist, and you learn about, people's body language, mental health, and all of that stuff, you would think you would have the wherewithal to realize, like, if I want to take control of this narrative or this group to make it look good for me and my wife, he would have left Key West. Then once everybody got back to Atlanta, he would have called up King and Quad and said, hey, can we sit down and have a conversation? Or just did a one-on-one with King, apologized, and deaded the issue and moved on. But the fact that he held on to, like, I feel disrespected, and then Eugene asked him, did he touch you? And you said no. And then on top of that, when I think what really rubbed the men wrong is when he started detailing what could happen to King. 90 days in jail, paying a fine. And then they all were like, oh. So, like, he could really suffer some consequences for a fight that didn't even happen. I think it really made them look at Greg like he was weak. Like, it was just like, wow, bro, like, you really taking that move and ain't nothing happened? And again, like I've been saying, had King really made contact with Gregory, I would understand. You touched that man, you threw him on the sand, I'd have been like, yeah. Even though I probably would have been here for it because I don't like Greg, I would have definitely understood why he went to the police. Like, physical contact was made. But the fact that you walked away unscathed, you just walked away with sandy feet and you ran to the police, no. No, I'm sorry. I feel like Sweet Tea also needs to take ownership that the reason why the group is treating you this way, or you feel like the group is treating you this way, is because of your husband's actions. And I get you keep saying, well, they can't treat me this way because of my husband, but you keep acting like you and your husband are a package deal, because every time they ask you, how do you feel, Letitia? What does Tanisha feel? What does Sweet Tea feel? You always revert back to Gregory. So it basically feels like you are upholding him in his decision. So why wouldn't they treat you that way? The party and the event planner, they did a good job. They have a ballerina dancing, they have a horse-drawn carriage, the flowers, them steps were steep though. The flowers look nice, the feasting table looked nice with the roasted pig and the apple. I said, okay. You know, that lady MC, that lady on that MC, she was fun. Okay, I hope she get a bunch of bookings because she was so much fun. So we see some of the couples getting ready. We see Curtis and Jackie, practicing the waltz. So we saw Damon and Heavenly doing the same thing. And then we saw Scott surprising Contessa with his outfit, with his hair. And I said, Scott. But then again, it's a not a Halloween party, but it's a costume party. So like, I'm like, have a good time. I definitely wish Scott would have wore the purple suit, because I'm like, it was more fun than the white suit. I was like, it's purple. Let's be festive, okay? If we're going to take it there, take it all the way there, okay? So we get back to the event space, and Toya is putting on her Queen Charlotte wig. She is so excited. She's like, this is going to be a good night. Eugene finally shows up. He got his boot on his foot. You know, he's like, I'm here. I'm going to have a good time. And she's just ready to have fun. So then I think it was Eugene that brought up the Lumpspers, where he was just like, I kind of feel bad for Gregory and Sweet Tea. And Toya's like, I don't know why, because we did invite them. She explains how, I talked to Sweet Tea yesterday on FaceTime, expressing to her that she really should come. We want her to be here, want her to celebrate and participate in this celebration of our lives, but I don't know if they're going to come. What we find out is Toya said whether they come or not, we already have a schedule for everybody. Sweet Tea and Greg get there at 8 p.m. They got to leave promptly at 9 p.m. because at 9:01, Heavenly, Damon, Quad, and King will be there. And it is what it is. And for me, Greg is the problem, because I do not believe, had Greg been willing to talk to King earlier in this, after the whole situation, they would have stayed at the party. And I slightly felt bad for Sweet Tea, because you could tell that she wanted to stay. But it's like, your husband has been talking about how he's not comfortable and he felt disrespected. You also haven't really been that willing to have a conversation with Quad either. Not saying Quad has been really willing, but the fact that King has been willing, it kind of y'all messed up. That's what it is. It's like, and on top of that, y'all not going to the waltzing classes. Like, Damon and Heavenly went to the waltzing classes. So they definitely were going to be there for the waltzing dancing scene. King and Quad get to stay because the men have all talked to King and he's been the one that's been willing to move past this situation. So you two don't get to stay because y'all were holding on so tight to, I feel disrespected and we don't need to have a conversation, and I ran to the police. And see, you lost out on having a good time and fun. So we then see this scene of Quad and King getting ready. She's getting her hair done by, I guess, her hairstylist, and they're talking about the situation. Quad basically says she don't want to be nowhere near the Lunsford. She just want to have a good time. King is still kind of taken aback by the fact that Gregory went to file a report or press charges. He was like, it was mutual. Like, we were both getting into it. You were being disrespectful, and I checked you on your disrespect, and you ran to the police. And he also says, like, for a black man to put another black man in trouble with the police is kind of crazy, especially if nothing really happened. And I said, well, so time for the party. I love that they gave everybody like titles. So Toya and Eugene are the Duchess and Duke. You then have Steve and Mimi, they're Lady and Lord. And I will say, if I had to pick out of the whole cast, like, outfits, who I thought looked the best cohesively, I would say Steve and Mimi, because I like the champagne brown color. He looked good, she looked good. I was like, oh, this is a cute combination. I would have wore what Mimi had on. So they're called Lady and Lord. Then you have Cecil and Simone. Simone thought she was going to a prom or a quinceañera. I feel like maybe if the color was different, like a baby blue or like a yellow, it's the color, like the construction of the dress is somewhat reminiscent of like Bridgerton, but that color threw it off, girl. You was going to somebody prom. All right, but they were the Viscount and the Viscountess. We then end up seeing Toya and Eugene greeting people inside of the party. We then see Jackie and Curtis get there. I love Jackie's dress. Like, the shoulders were down. It's like baby blue with like navy blue flowers. I thought Curtis had on jeans for a moment, okay? But then as he started walking around, I was like, oh, okay, it's still like it's dress pants material. But they were called the Count and the Countess. We then see Scott and Contessa get there. I still wish Scott would have wore his purple suit. I was like, that would have been so much better. But she had a beautiful train, and they were the Lady and the Lord. And then we also see Letitia and Gregory pull up, and they're Lady and Lord. I thought her dress was actually cute, but I just didn't like her hair. I didn't like the two strands braids here, and then she has the bows clipped onto it. I don't know, it looked childish, but I think the dress looked really pretty on her. I was like, that's a really nice color. That might be one of your colors, sweetie. So Mimi's in her confessional being like, here come messy 1 and messy 2. And a lot of people were mad at her for saying that, but I wonder if that was a soundbite to something else, because it didn't even like flow, because they didn't even show us the beginning of the conversation for her to say messy 1 and messy 2. So it just didn't, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that's who she was referring to, in my opinion. So the women are actually surprised that Sweetie and Gregory are there. Toya is actually excited that they're there because she wanted them to be there. She's talking to Mimi and Simone, and now all of a sudden, this is where I said it seems like they started to change their minds about no longer being a part of the group, because now Sweetie's in her confessional talking about, I do have some friendships I want to hold on to and some bonds that I have built. And I'm like, but you just said that like you would forego this group for your marriage. Now all of a sudden we holding on to friendships and bonds. I was like, I don't know. So we then see this lady come out, and she's kind of like the paper boy, like read all about it kind of. She's like, ladies and gentlemen. And she starts passing out the newsletter like they do on Queen Charlotte. And so everyone's like, what is this? What is this? And so you can see Sweet Tea is smirking. So off rip, she's the one that is the culprit of this. And they all start reading. They pass it out to everybody that's at the actual event. And so, they're all looking around and reading it. Simone is reading it out. And then all of a sudden, Sweet Tea starts reading it like she didn't type it out. So I was like, okay, they definitely chat GPT'd this. And pretty much she brought up saying that the women are obsessed with Quad now that she's with King. On top of that, she says that Curtis likes to put his hands on women's waists that are not his wife. Then on top of that, it says something about Heavenly and the way that she speaks to people. And everyone's just like, girl, especially when she got to the Jackie part, the way that Jackie looked at her like, oh, okay. And so they also show Curtis in Africa with his hand on Heavenly's waist. And it didn't even look like it was like sexual. Like, I don't think anybody like cared about it. But so then they're all like, okay, so are you the one that created this, Sweet Tea? And she's like, yes, I did. And everyone's kind of like, okay, girl. And then Jackie's like, Toya, that was trash. And she rips it in half and throws it on the ground. And I was like, it didn't give the effect I guess she wanted from the group, because she ends up saying a couple of people are seething right now, you know, because I gave them the truth. A couple of witches are melted. I said, girl, you're goofy. You're so lame. I was like, Sweet Tea. That did not give the effect that I think you thought it was going to give you. Because she ends up saying some people just can't take the truth. Well, you clearly can't take the truth about your marriage when the people in the comments saying that, girl, you not in a healthy relationship. I was just like, girl, I feel like she thought this was going to be her big one, especially if she thought that they were going to leave the show, and it just didn't land. It just didn't. This moment where Curtis pulls Greg to the side and asks him, like, bro, so you gonna drop them charges? Did you have a time to think about what we talked to you about at the church? And Greg basically complies, like he's gonna drop the charges, and now he's willing to have a conversation with King. So then Curtis is like, okay, that's awesome. Like, all us men can mediate this situation for you. Girl, Kieran is up there too. I said, Kieran, you are not a part of this conversation. Go somewhere and sit down. But we then see they pull all of the men together. So now it's Scott, Kieran, Cecil, Steve, and Eugene is now in his actual attire for the party. And Curtis basically tells them, well, Greg says he's willing to have a conversation with King and let us guys mediate it. So everyone's like, that's awesome. We then see in a dual confessional, Simone and Cecil, and Cecil basically saying that I knew it was about a moment of time until Greg was going to have to like come to the realization of his mistakes. And now we can all move forward, or try to move forward as a group. So Simone said Gregory finally admits that he started that too. And they was like, yeah. So he's like, yeah, I'm willing to have a conversation with him. So time is kind of winding down. You know, the girls are like, it's almost time to go. And then you see Contessa trying to tell Sweet Tea, like, if you want to stay, you can stay. Like, if you want to stay, you can stay. And I said, girl, this is not your party. And they knew the terms and conditions of coming to this party when they said they was coming to this party. So they know they got to leave at 9:00. And so you see Simone pull, what's her name? Toya aside and say, you know, Contessa is telling them that they can stay at your party. Like, so what you gonna do? So then Toya ends up saying, well, it's time for y'all to go. You know, Quad and King and Damon and Heavenly are on their way now. And then Simone basically says, clearly, y'all don't want to be around them and they don't want to be around y'all. So it probably would be best for y'all to leave. And Simone was like, yeah, it's time for y'all to go. I said, Simone. And so Contessa ends up saying she feels bad for Sweet Tea, because when Contessa was talking to Sweet Tea was like she wanted to stay. But again, like I said, y'all, I slightly felt bad because she wanted to stay, but then I'm like, well, this is the mess that was created by y'all doing the actions that y'all took. Like, I feel like if they would have came back from Key West and been open to having a conversation with Quad, like Sweet Tea and Quad sit down one-on-one, or someone is there to mediate, or King and Gregory do the same thing, this wouldn't be happening right now. But because Gregory came back, he got in his feelings because his ego got bruised and his pride was hurt, and ran to the police to file a complaint. You caused the tension and uncomfortableness, because what sense does it make to have somebody who has charges pressed against them in the same vicinity with said person? That could make it worse. Now, like, I felt bad because you could tell she wanted to stay and he kind of wanted to stay too. But then I was just like, well, y'all chose this, like, you made a choice. So they making a choice. And you told them it's not their fault if they pick a side, and they picked a side. So I don't know. So It's like at this time it's like 8:59 p.m. So they like, yeah, y'all got to go. And then Toya said, this the mess y'all created. And I was with Toya. Like, y'all didn't want this whole entire second half of the season. Y'all did not want to come to some type of agreement or have any conversations with King or Quad. And it seems like King, out of everybody, and that's Quad, Sweet Tea, and Gregory, wanted to have a conversation so everybody could move forward. So they gonna stick with the party that want to move forward. So, you know, Toya's like, they got to go. Toya's like, they got to go. It is what it is. So Dr. Gregory's like, he accepts it. We see Anila. Anila's dress is actually cute too. It's like ruffles as well, like tulle poofy ruffles with flowers embroidered onto it, and then it's over like this blue dress. I said, okay, come on, Anila. So they leave talking about they gonna go home, and again now they're resorting back to like, you know, maybe we do need to take a step back. She talks about how she wants to build her family and all of that stuff, and they basically do a montage of her time on the show. I said, oh girl, this show exit package. They do her bachelorette party, her marrying Gregory, them down at the rodeo, and then the final piece of like when she had a conversation with Toya and Mimi at the place talking about she'll pick her marriage, and they get back in the car and they go home. I didn't really like her dress, but I loved her wig. It was giving very much Queen Charlotte with the small tiara, but a lot of hair. Damon just had on a regular black suit. He still looked good. We then meet Miss Felicia, the MC. Love that lady. Love her. When I tell you I know she's a fun time at parties, she was a vibe, okay? She basically ushers all the guests into the event spot. So I guess the part that Gregory and Sweet Tea were at like the cocktail hour. So they usher all the guests into the new area that we saw where Toya was doing a walkthrough with the ballerina and the flowers and the feasting table. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And so all of them go in except for, you know, the cast. So she starts announcing everyone. We see Simone and Cecil go first. Then we see everybody else. And then we finally get the names or the titles for Heavenly, Damon, and then King and Quad. So Heavenly and Damon are the same as Cecil and Simone, Viscount and Viscountess. And then King and Quad are Lady and Marquis. I had to look that up because I thought it said Marquise. So I was like, is that Marquis? I didn't know Marquise was a name, but I looked it up. It's called Marquis, and that is a nobleman of heredity ranking below a duke and above an earl or a count. I said, okay. Learning something new every day. So everyone is just like so excited that King and Quad are there. They're like, oh, this is going to be a good time. We're glad you guys could come and make it. And, you know, Toya ends up telling King, like, we missed you being around the group. So it seems like King is a very well-liked guy. Like, it seems like everyone really thinks he's a cool dude, and I guess even the short amount of time that they have with him before he could no longer film with the group, he showed his best foot forward, you know, or put his best foot forward, okay? I think that's how the euphemism go, okay? I liked Quad and King's outfits, but Quad was given medieval time for me, and King was given Bridgerton. So I think out of all the couples' outfits, I like Steve and Mimi's the most. Yeah. I liked Quad's purple. I liked the purple, but it was just like, girl, you giving medieval like queen or princess. It's not giving like Regency era, like the vibe that I'm looking for, okay? But she still looked pretty with the big hair and the crown. So King said he was happy that the group missed him in the confessional that he did with Quad, and he's glad to be a part of the group. So then we get this scene with Contessa and Simone, where we find out 3 days before the party, they tried to invite Phaedra back into the group. And they both were like, well, we tried to get her to come back, but we failed. So they see, I think they were at like some gym, and you see Sweet Tea, you see Contessa, and you see Simone, where they're like, well, you know, Contessa's like, me and Heavenly fight back and forth, but it's never like, don't let her punk you out your spot, basically. And Phaedra basically says like, I'm not going to change the way I behave to deal with her foolishness. I said, okay, Phaedra. Okay. And so Simone ends up asking to me a good question where she's like, if your issue is only with Heavenly, why are you no longer trying to be a part of the group? And Phaedra doesn't answer it. So basically, we know Phaedra was just happy that she no longer had to fake like she wanted to be a part of this group. Now that Real Housewives of Atlanta called her back the last 2 weeks of filming. So we then get this scene of where Simone just hugs Contessa saying, Phaedra's gone, but I'm so glad that you're back in the group. So then we end up seeing Eugene say some really sweet words about Toya, and Toya actually say some sweet things about Eugene, where he was like, I was finally a doctor in 2006. And, I said, I'm going to go to, I think he was like in Atlanta at the time, or maybe he was in Chicago. I don't know. Either way, he was excited. He was like, I'm going to go out here and sow my wild oats. And then he actually saw Toya at a bar and was just like, oh, who that? And he was like, she stole my heart and never gave it back. Like, she means so much to me. And then in the confessional together, Toya just talks about how Eugene made her feel smart. He listened to her. He made her feel special. And, every day she's just happy to be with him. And you could tell I was like, come on, Eugene. Like, that was some very sweet words. And I do think, even though at times I feel like we're all like, Toya be giving Eugene the blues, and she do. I do think she genuinely is happy with the man that she is with. And I do like the fact that she said he made her feel smart and feel important, because I do think everybody needs at least one person in their life, whether it's a parent or a best friend or a sibling or a significant other, that makes you feel special and makes you feel smart. So I thought that was very sweet. So then we get this moment with Contessa and Heavenly where Contessa's fixing Heavenly's crown, and she was like, a queen should always fix another queen's crown. So they, at the end of this, they were on a good page, I guess. So then they asked King, how does he feel? He's like, I'm happy to be around you guys. And then Curtis lets them know Gregory said he was open to have a conversation with King, with us all around, to smooth things over. And King basically said, I ain't had no problem with the man, Like, I ain't had no problem with him. And if we want to have a conversation, we can. He's the one that's been holding on to this pretty much. I said, okay. So everyone's like, well, at least that means we moving in the right direction. It's winding down, and basically the women are having a conversation, and pretty much Simone is trying to tell Quad, as Gregory was leaving, he basically admitted that he was ashamed and embarrassed about what happened between him and King. And she was like, do you think there will be an opportunity for y'all to be in the same group, not really like around each other, but be in the same group and things will be cordial? And then Quad ends up saying, girl, I'm not interested. And she said it so fast with the quickness. And everyone was like, well, but Quad. And then Toya's like, but Quad, I feel like forgiveness, y'all can forgive each other and heal from this. And Quad basically says, I can forgive and heal away from him. And I said, that's true too. And so Quad basically says, no, Toya ends up saying, Quad, it makes us feel like we have to choose again. Like we already kicked a bunch of other people out of this group. We're not trying to do it again. And so Quad said, well, then lose me. And so everyone's like, here we go again, girl. And Quad just basically says, put yourself in my shoes. Like, would you want to be around your ex or not? Heavenly's like in the amen section, like, and don't and won't. And then she ends up saying, anybody who wouldn't defend their wife is a bitch. And so they're like, okay. And so Jackie's like, Heavenly, be quiet. Just be quiet for this moment. And Toya's just like, I guess it is what it is at this point. And so Simone said, we're leaving this event as a fractured group. Quad says, we always been a fractured group. And Simone's like, not this bad, I don't think. And then Heavenly's like, nah, it is pretty bad, Quad. Like, people have been coming in and coming out, coming in and coming out. And then they actually finally called everybody to do the waltz. And it was actually a really sweet scene. And then they turned the music up and everybody got to dancing. And they all just basically said that they love this group and that they love what this group represents for them. And everybody that should be there is there. I mean, I understand Quad basically saying she don't want to be around them, and I wouldn't want to either. But I think the group is looking at this as from the standpoint of like, dang, we done ostracized a lot of people. They got rid of Mariah. If you think about it, they got rid of Mariah. Buffy didn't stay that long. Audra was there, and I feel like they should have kept Audra. Even though her and Toya got into it, they were able to resolve their situation. So I feel like Audra should have stayed. But I also heard that she had a lot going on, dealing with some family stuff that maybe she didn't want filmed. I was hoping that Alicia was going to come back, but I don't think her husband wanted to get embarrassed again. And to me, they never should have brought Phaedra, because I feel like Phaedra, I don't know, her energy, I feel like was messed this all up for us. I don't like Phaedra and just bad vibes, all right? But yeah, I just feel like they were like, they don't want to kick nobody else out of the group because they've done that before and they got the backlash. Maybe they didn't want that to happen again. I don't know. But if the rumors are true that they are going to do a cast shakeup, I can definitely see them keeping Toya. Yeah, I can see them keeping Toya, Heavenly, Quad, and Contessa. And possibly keeping Mimi because she seemed to mesh well with the group. And then probably bringing on 2 new doctors to take the place of Jackie and Simone, and another housewife to take the place of Sweet Tea. Even though I'm a miss, Simone, because I told y'all that's my girl. But I do think at this point, if you don't really have anything to like give us, then maybe it's just time for them to maybe possibly be demoted. Because that's always been my thought. Instead of just kicking off cast members, they should just demote them to friends of. Like, you bump them down to friends of. We see them at social events. They don't really have to be in the mix of everything. But then you let other people lead the charge like they were doing, and we still have a cohesive group. I don't know. But the rumors have been that they're planning on putting the show on hiatus the same way they did Real Housewives of Atlanta, and potentially doing a cast shakeup. But if they don't do a cast shakeup and they add new people, I do think they need to have a come to Jesus moment, and we have to have better storylines. And we got to stop rehashing old beef. Like, no more Simone versus Quad, no more Heavenly versus Contessa, or Heavenly versus Sweet Tea if she stays around. No more Toya versus Jackie or Heavenly, or Quad. Like, we got to move a little different, okay? I still love Married to Medicine. It's still one of my favorite reality shows. I want this show to succeed. So I hope that if they do a shakeup, it makes sense. Okay, so as always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below. Share your thoughts with me. Thumbs up the video, subscribes, and you know what? I'm out, y'all. Deuces.